Do you ever struggle with the question, do you put your energy into building on your strengths, or do you put your energy into building upon the things that are not your strengths, your weaknesses, those areas in your life that you need to work towards changing or improving? That is what we're diving into today in The Art of Plenty. So stick around, because this is a good one, and this is something that I have most definitely wrestled with in my life, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you about it today. Okay, where's this question coming from? Where's this question of, should I focus on strengths or should I focus on things that I'm not good at? Where is this coming from? Well, recently we had someone on our team leave their position. Now, when you're an entrepreneur, you know that this kind of thing happens. And when you're a small business owner and those kind of things come up where somebody is leaving, you're always faced with the question of, okay, now what? What do we do with the workload that that person was carrying? And there's a couple different strategies that entrepreneurs use, and a couple of different philosophies that I have realized that entrepreneurs work from. So here is one of the things that I've noticed some entrepreneurs do. They work from this perspective that they know how to do all of the things within their business, and that they're willing to do all of those parts. I have a few brothers that are in business. All my brothers actually are entrepreneurs, and a few of them definitely work from this perspective. They know how to do every job within their business, and they are willing to do it if it comes down to it. Now, there are definitely things that they prefer to do, things that they are good at, and they lean towards more of those things, but they know how to do it all, and therefore they know how to train everybody. Then the other philosophy that I see entrepreneurs using is that the entrepreneur, the owner, doesn't necessarily need to know how to do everything within the realm of their business. They may be willing to do things, they may be willing to learn things, but they work from a philosophy of, I'm just going to hire the right people to do the work that I need them to do in order that our business can run the way that our business needs to run. We have been able to apply both of those philosophies, my husband and I, into our businesses. But when somebody quits, when somebody leaves the business or moves on or whatever happens, and you're looking at the workload that that person used to carry, it comes with the question of, who's going to pick this up? Are we replacing the person? Is there someone on the team that has capacity? Are we splitting this job into multiple jobs? What are we doing with this work? Is this work even still necessary for the direction that our company is going? And regardless of what that decision is, whether or not you're going to replace the person or spread the work out or change the way that you're doing business so that you don't necessarily need that role anymore, there's this period of bridging where you have to transition from somebody doing that work to whatever the new plan is. And this is where I get tied into this question of, what do I do with the time that I have, and what is the most useful way for me to utilize my time? So how do you make that decision, whether you're going to kind of jump into uncomfortable growth or you're going to continue to pursue and build on your strengths? Now, you've been along long enough to know, well, I'm assuming that you have followed some of my content before, and that you've heard me talk about the benefits of doing hard things. Or if you've been in personal development at all in the last decade, you know there's a real emphasis on doing hard things and the benefits of doing hard things, which is that idea that I'm talking about of uncomfortable growth. It's putting yourself into that zone where you don't necessarily have competence or strength yet, but by going into that area, by pushing yourself, you are growing and changing, and it's not usually comfortable. That's the whole idea. That's the whole reason it's hard. So here are some of the benefits that I've drawn out. And I know that this list that I'm going to give you is not all of the things. It's not all of the benefits of doing hard things, but these are the things that really speak to me because of when I have done hard things. These are the things that really resonated for me in the way that putting myself into that uncomfortable growth stage, the things that I've really gotten out of it. So the first one is mental toughness and resilience, because life is going to be hard. Even if you're one of those people, and I'm sure you all know someone, if it's not you, that has a way of sailing through life, things just kind of seem to go their way or go your way, if that's the case. There are still things that happen in life that are going to be hard. So when you intentionally put yourself in a situation to do something that is hard for you, the benefit is that you develop resilience for those times when you're thrown into hard situations that you didn't put yourself in. It builds up capacity to handle difficult things, to handle hard things. So it is something that not only builds mental toughness, but it builds resilience. And what I love about this thing, of this attribute, this skill gain from doing hard things, is that the type of situation that grows this resilience in you, that grows this mental fortitude, it doesn't have to be the same type of situation in the future where you may need it. Mental toughness, resilience works across all boards. So if you're experiencing something that is causing a lot of growth in you and requiring a lot of resilience in your relationship, a couple years down the road when things go sideways with work, that mental toughness and resilience you built for handling the difficult thing in your relationship works for you in the work situation. Isn't that awesome? It's not like you need mental toughness and resilience in your relationship and a different type of mental toughness relationship or resilience in your work relationships or in your work situation. We get to use it and spread it around. Love that about it. The other thing that doing hard things does is it actually changes your perspective of self. It allows you to realize that you have capacity for growth, you have capacity for change, and when you do hard things and you accomplish those things, there's a sense of, oh, this is now a part of who I am. Because we're always changing, we're always growing, even when we are not focused on personal development, even when we are more of a person who does not spend or invest a lot of time into that, we still change and evolve over time. It's the one thing that is constant is change. And when you go into the situation of doing hard things, that's one of the benefits, is that your idea of yourself changes and shifts to incorporate this new thing that you've been able to do, or that you're learning to do, or that even that you're okay with struggling through it. The next one on my list is when you do hard things, one of the benefits is that it develops perseverance. Because if you got it the very first time you did it, it wasn't hard. And the process of going through it and having to work through it develops perseverance, provided you stay committed to it, obviously. In situations where you're doing hard things, there's a delay of gratification. There's a delay in feeling that success of, oh, I've got this. I know what I'm doing. You actually have to work at it. And that process develops perseverance because it doesn't always come easy. And that delay in the gratification of success makes the gratification that comes later when you do have the success even bigger. And there's something to be said for continuing to stay at it, to stay at the table to work things through, to continue to put your energy and your heart and your soul into the task when you don't know where the finish line is. There's something about that piece that really increases perseverance and grit. And one of the things that I love is that grit and perseverance are things that you can teach. You can learn how to do those. Those are actual skills. And yeah, there are definitely people that are just gritty from birth. They know how to be gritty. It's not hard for them. It comes naturally. Because they do it naturally, they get better at it and they perfect it. And then there's other people that are not like that from birth, but they can still learn and work at those things and become grittier with time. Amazing. Next benefit of doing hard things is it produces humility and empathy. And I think I just really appreciate that point, because when you're focusing on strengths and you're good at everything you're doing, it's really easy to settle into this place of, yeah, I'm amazing. Look at me go. I'm doing so good. I feel so great about all of these things that I'm learning and all of these contributions that I'm making. And when you actually have to struggle through and you have to fail and you fail again, it deepens your sense of empathy for others who also have things that they have to work through. And when you have more space for empathy, when you have more space for humility, and I'm not talking false humility, I'm talking legit humility, there's this understanding and appreciation for others that are on the journey beside us or with us, or the ones that we're working through these challenges with. And I love that. The reward of working through, this is my last one, the reward of working through something that is challenging is rewarding. And we talked a little bit about this when we were talking about the developing perseverance and the gratification that comes from doing something that's hard. There's a really sweet reward that comes through the process of doing something that's difficult. It is much more gratifying, it's much more rewarding when the thing that you've accomplished has come on the end of hard work, of something that's taxing. Not to say that we don't enjoy the benefits when something comes easy, it just doesn't have the richness to it because it doesn't have the struggle connected. So those are the benefits of doing hard things. But when is it not? When is it not a good idea to focus energy towards uncomfortable growth, and rather, when is it a good idea to really focus and lean into the strengths that you already have? I had this situation, and now that I'm in my 40s, I'm like, when did that happen? What is the timeline for that event? It's hard to measure the years when things run together and when you have different situations. But I was considering doing my PhD in business, and I was looking for different PhD programs. I think the reason why it's hard for me to anchor this situation into a timeline is this is something that I have floated around ever since I completed my master's, which was 17 years ago, if you can believe that. I'm saying, can you believe it? Because there's a part of me that thinks, no way. How? I don't even feel any different than I did when I was 17. And now we're talking about something 17 years ago, which is just hard to get my brain around. But I digress. When I have thought about this, going for my PhD, I've gone to different lengths of looking at programs, trying to figure out what I want to do it in, trying to figure out what the application process would be. I don't want to upheaval my life to go do my PhD because I'm very much connected to the community that I live in, and my kids are connected to this community. We have business in this community. So I think about it, I haven't necessarily found something, but there was one program and I was really leaning towards it because it fit well with our life, and I felt like, I have capacity to do this right now. But one of the requirements for admission was a score on, I think the abbreviation is GMAT, like a GMAT, which is an exam that at that time really focused kind of had two main parts. One was languages and one was mathematics. And I think that now, if you were to do that test, I think there's actually a third component to it, but I don't know much about that. And that exam, so I started kind of studying for it, did some research into it, started, working through some study books, looking at what options there were for courses to help you prepare for the exam. It's been a while since I had been in school, clearly, 17 years. And I was looking, that's now not necessarily when I was thinking about doing this test, but I was diving into what would this require? What would I need to learn? And I felt pretty confident about the language components. I was like, yeah, I need to do some touch-ups, but this is in my wheelhouse. This is where I already have strength. The math, on the other hand, is not an area in my life where I necessarily have strength. I remember when I was in grade 8, my grade 8 math teacher would make me, and I'm not, there's no anger about this, but would make me stand up in front of the other students in my class and spout off my multiplication tables, because he wanted me to know them. And he felt like when I was in grade 8 that I didn't know them well enough to be able to do the math that I was doing in the class quickly enough without having my multiplication tables memorized. So that was part of what he was doing. I remember clearly because I was doing grade 8 math and I was also doing math from elementary school concurrently at the same time. And I don't know why. Like, I don't know if there was such significant gaps in my education that I just somehow missed the math. And because that wasn't the way that my brain naturally went, I somehow coasted through elementary school without knowing very much in math. But I remember doing elementary math and my grade 8 math at the same time. And when I think back to that now, I'm so thankful to that teacher who saw that gap and just created this for me, because I wasn't on like an individual education plan, and I don't remember having any meetings. It was just something that he did that he thought would help me. And it did, because by the time I got to grade 10 or 11, I took honors math. I can't remember if that was 10 or 11, grade 10 or 11. But anyways, I've had an interesting relationship with math. To be honest, I don't really like it. There's nothing really that interesting to math. It's never been a subject that I've really wanted to learn or leaned into or loved or appreciated. And I'm married to a guy who loves numbers. I have kids that are incredible at math, love math. So I'm around it enough to know that there's a lot of value in it. Obviously, I'm an entrepreneur, but it's not something that is my strength. And this is what the question is about. Do I lean into the math, or do I just let this go? And what I realized in that situation is the amount of energy and effort that I would need to put into to do well on the math portion of that exam was more effort than I wanted to put into the situation, knowing that the PhD program wasn't quite the exact fit that I wanted anyways, in part because of the exam that was required. And I knew that this was just a hurdle, and I knew that I could overcome it, and I knew I could have all of those list of benefits from doing hard things, but it wasn't appealing enough to me to do that. And I'm at the stage in my life now where I really know myself. I've had enough time to try out different things, to explore different interests, to learn different things, and to get used to myself that I know that the things that I'm good at, and I know the things that I want to learn. And one of the beautiful things about leaning into your strengths, about taking personal development in the direction of strengths rather into the direction of uncomfortable growth, is that it enables you to actually build mastery on a different level. When you already are good at something, when it's already a strength and you lean into it, it's like your whole being leans into it with you. And you start to see connections and relationships between the things that you're interested in ways that you didn't before. And I think that I visualize it in the way that our brain works. You know how like when you have a thought and when you're trying to remember something, if you can anchor it into your brain, into something that you already know, it becomes more accessible to you and locks it into your memory quicker. It's kind of like that. When you build on these strengths and everything's connected up there in your brain, it's like you can retain all of this information because it's connected to things that you already know, that you're already interested in, and it just continues to build mastery. The other thing about leaning into your strengths is that that type of work is way more fulfilling for people just in general than working on things that are not really in your strength. And because it's more fulfilling, it means that you're more motivated to do it. So maintaining and keeping up energy towards that is just so much more sustainable, which is part of the thing that I think I ran into with the math, like studying for the math exam. I was just spending hours, doing it, and I had such little motivation to do it. It was hard to do, and I felt like the more time I spent on it, I didn't really feel like I was making big gains, which was frustrating for me. And it was hard to keep that motivation, to keep looking at it, which was ultimately what led me to, this isn't a fit, and maybe I need to let this go. It's also way less frustrating when you're good at something and you have a bend towards it. And what I mean by a bend, it's you're inclined towards it. There's something in your makeup, whether it's your strengths or your values or your personality or your characteristics. There's all of those things working together that has a bend in that direction. And therefore, it's so much easier to go in that way. It's way less frustrating. So how am I applying this? How am I applying this idea to my life of how do I choose to grow myself in a direction where I don't really have any mastery or strength, or to grow myself in a situation where I've already developed strengths? Well, I've decided that I want to hold both in my hands. I want to hold both of these ideas, that there are times when I want to lean into things that I don't necessarily know about. Because even though I have a really good picture of who I am and I know the things that I like, if I hold open space, I may discover that there are other things about me that I like. And so I'm keeping the door open, and I'm holding the possibility that in any given situation, I could lean one way or the other. I'm creating space for the possibility of both. I'm also, and this is new, I'm trying to spend time, or I guess it's the opposite. I'm not spending time talking about my weaknesses. I don't say things, or I'm trying not to say things like, well, I'm just not good at math. Rather, I just not saying anything at all. It's like that old thing that my mother used to say when I was a kid. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And so in regards to my weakness, I just don't necessarily talk about my weaknesses in a way that will continue to feed like a self-defeating message. I'm just trying to embrace the possibility that I can lean into these strengths, but there may be a time when I have to do something that is totally out of my comfort zone and lean into that. It often, as I started out talking about, it often comes up with work. And I think that's really what got me puzzling this, because one of the things that would require an incredible amount of uncomfortable growth for me is figuring out how to do all of the technology components of creating podcasts. That is something, and the computer stuff, that is something that is really difficult for me. I don't have a lot of interest in it. And so when I get faced with that, trying to figure out those side of things, the technology side of things, is very difficult for me. And I don't have any interest. So there's been times when I've like dove into it and had to work through things. But it comes at a greater cost now in my life because of how many things I have going on. I have kids, I have parents that are still here, I have all of these relationships that I want to be a part of. I'm in a stage in my career where I have enough experience under me where I really want to push into some things. I'm not close to retirement, so I don't feel that pull at all. I'm really invested in the work that I'm doing. And because of that, I really want to focus on the things and the direction that I'm going in, rather than working on this idea of uncomfortable growth, of things that don't really fit or move me forward in the direction that I'm going. And that doesn't mean that there isn't opportunity for growth in the area that I have strengths. It's just not quite the same when I think of uncomfortable growth, like working on math things or working on the technology side of things. It's not that kind of growth. There's room for growth for me, but it's much more in line with the area that I have strengths. And so I'm really being intentional about how I'm using my time and really drawing into the strengths that I have so that I can not only have the benefits of that for myself with the mastery and the things that we talked about, but also so that I can do the things that I really feel that I'm meant to do. I really want to be laser focused at this time in my life because that really matters to me. And that's essentially what the Art of Plenty is all about. It's about being who we're meant to be and dealing with the resistances and the things that pull us away from walking out the life that we're meant to live. I'm so glad that you showed up today. Send me a DM if you've struggled with this question, or send me a DM if you lean one way more than the other, and what kind of things have led you to lean one way or the other, whether you're more strength focused or more on uncomfortable growth focus. I'd love to hear from you. I'm so glad you tuned in. It really makes a difference to me to hear from you and to know what's going on in your life so that I can create content for you that speaks to you, helps you, motivates you. Have a gorgeous day.